Today, loved ones will gather to mourn and remember the life and legacy of Ivana Trump. The socialite and businesswoman was the first wife of former President Trump, and in a few hours, he and their children are expected to pay their final respects. I'm joined right now by Naughty But Nice podcast host Rob Shooter. You are attending this private funeral. Thanks for taking time to chat with us. When was the last time New York saw a funeral from someone so public like this?
I would guess the last time New York had a funeral like this was the legendary Joan Rivers. I was at that funeral too. Lots of New Yorkers came out, friends, family members. So it's a big day. I think you can't underestimate what she really meant to this city. And it's very complicated because her ex-husband, is not terribly popular here in Manhattan.
Not anymore.
She seemed to sort of like rise above that. And although her last name was Trump, she was still somebody that was really welcomed within the fabric of this city. I'd see her out at fancy events at the Met Gala or even at the Public Museum at the Ballet. And she was also spotted at drag bars on the Lower East Side. She loved this city, and there was no aspect of this city that she was not really part of.
Do you believe that there will be people in attendance from all walks of life? I mean, you think about the former wife of a president, but obviously, as you mentioned, very connected in many different circles. Who's expected to be there?
Her friends have really worked hand in hand with the Trump family here. So this event was not taken over by the former president. A lot of, I think, friends worried that he would move in and turn this almost into some sort of reality show or some sort of rally. That, I'm told, is not the case. Lots and lots of her friends are going to be there. I don't think you're going to see many celebrities, bold-faced names there. He is going, so we know for a fact that the former president will be there. But a lot of her friends will be there, and we're hoping that even though she was larger than life and certainly enjoyed the attention, this will be about her today and not him.
You know, I've heard word that former First Lady Melania Trump will not be in attendance. Do we know if she might surprise everyone?
Yeah, we don't know yet. A couple of days ago, it was rumored that he wouldn't be there. I was the first to report that he was going. He is going to be there. We do know Marla Maples will not be there, and her daughter Tiffany. Famously, Donald Trump had an affair with Marla Maples and broke up with Ivana, so she is not going to be there. I would say that Melania will turn up. I think she'll turn up. I don't think she'll talk to the press outside. I don't think she'll make any remarks, but she seems quite comfortable, actually, turning up at rather awkward, potentially awkward situations, looking fabulous and not speaking. So I predict she will be there.
Yeah, and I mean, really, what was remarkable was that Ivana and Donald, they had a friendship even after a messy divorce, and they were able to have some sort of grace and forgiveness between the two, even all these years later.
It was amazing. This was one of the ugliest divorces I've ever seen. He cheated on her. He cheated on her repeatedly. He got caught. And then in the tabloids here in New York, they went at each other back and forth every single day, saying the most hateful things about one another. And then fast forward a few years, and they managed to stay friends. He just spoke out about her, saying what an amazing person she was, such grace. And they still loved each other, no longer together, still loved each other. And she was one of the few Trumps that managed to keep her head out of the political realm. He offered her an ambassadorship that she turned down. She didn't want her life to change. She loved it here in New York City, but they did remain close, and even got closer when he went to the White House.
I want to squeeze this in. I know that in lieu of flowers, the family is asking for donations to be made to an animal rescue foundation, but is there expected to be some type of public dedication from the city? I mean, has it reached that height of honor for her?
I don't know if it has. And once again, all of this is packaged within the Trump presidency and with him. He's so larger than life that he always sort of becomes about him. And that makes it very complicated, particularly because he's so controversial. But she loved doggies. Her little doggie, who was called Tiger, a little Yorkie, is now with her, a longtime assistant, Dorothy. She just loved animals. So instead of flowers, she's requested that people make a donation to her favorite animal charity.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.